Okay. So, something that I like doing at the start of every game is going over what I think the team's win conditions are. Uh, it happens that every team comp has a slightly different win condition based off of if you pick a standard comp or a split push or a tank or, whatever. It becomes really relevant to know where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And a lot of people at every LO seem to misunderstand where you should be trying to press your advantages. Sometimes it's very common that people start saying we need to group whenever you start losing, and probably half of the time that's wrong, because not every comp wins grouped. Uh, a lot of comps do better with split push. You can use Trendemir as an example. Trendemir in team fights, not that great, but he'll take down the entire top lane and single-handedly win games. Um, so your team comp and their team comp, right? Your team comp has Caitlyn and Victor, who both have great siege potential and great objective control. Soraka is going to keep you guys in the fights longer. Swain is a great for getting if he gets a good flank off, or if he can create a fight where he just can walk in. That's really good. And Rengar is going to be looking to probably assassinate someone. Okay, well that sounds simple, right? You knew every champion did this, but what does that mean you're going to need to do with this game? Well, you don't have a typical tank engage comp. If you're going to be doing something like engaging, it is always going to be a pick. This team is always going to be needing picks. Whether or not that's finding someone who's just waiting under tower before they have enough people there to properly team fight and just engaging on them, or finding someone in a bush and engaging on them, or whenever someone comes to check an objective, just bursting them down. That is what three of your damage dealers do. Swain is the only one here who's slightly different, but he still requires a strange fight. He's not going to be able to kill the backline by himself, but he's going to do a good amount of damage and scare them off, right? Okay. Soraka is something that's going to keep your laners alive longer, and it's going to make it so sieging is a lot better and their dive is a lot worse. Okay. Their team has also a lot of pick potential, more than your team even. They have Thresh, Varus, and Syndra who all can set up these easy picks, and even Morgana actually. And their team fight is also kind of bad. Um, I would be really afraid in this game of sticking in a lane where you don't know where the numbers are, right? If they have a numbers advantage and they can set up this pick with all of this long range CC, you would lose that fight. Um, and the Lee Sin has a lot of early pressure. Rengar picks up after 6 a lot more. So I would be careful around 6 minutes for the Lee, and then he's going to become like a non-factor. So basically, neither of these teams really want to be looking for team fights. And you know that Swain can out-split push the Morgana in a typical situation. And the Rengar is going to be able to, past level 6, out 1v1 the Lee. Your problem comes with if you three are grouped, their team is better with equal sittings, equal gold, and getting picks because they have so much more to choose the fights. The only way your team chooses fights is by a Caitlyn trap, if it's lucky, and they walk into it for some reason, or they get too close to the Victor burst. Meanwhile, their team has a lot that can set up fights. So I would be very afraid of sieging a lane where you do not know where numbers are. Caitlyn's very important to go around the map and get these early turrets. You want to be making sure that you can push in this bottom lane pretty quickly and be looking towards another lane to try and get gold. Typically, you would take bottom lane, then you would rotate top lane, and eventually middle, because typically middle lane has the most wave clear. You do the right thing getting vision up here by walking up here. That's something that's sometimes a peeve of mine, but you did it right, so I'm pretty happy with that. Because then you see this invade doesn't work out too well, because you guys had proper vision setup. Uh, Starting traps is fine. A little bit manly here. I wouldn't be chasing this. So anyway, what I was talking about earlier before I started playing the game, I didn't expect this. I expected to have like one more minute of potentially just bitching about early game, right? Uh, your job is to find these early turrets because their mid game is a bit stronger than yours with all of this pick potential. Your late game is going to be very reliant on out-rotating or making sure you never have the numbers disadvantage. Their 3 is stronger than your 3. Their 2 is weaker than your 2. So what you want to make sure is either the Lee is having to go top to deal with the Swain, and the Rengar comes to you 4, makes it a 4 versus 3, or you rotate away from these guys because you don't want to sit in a lane against all of these guys. And Caitlyn wants to siege, right? So I was talking about early taking this turret, early taking this turret, because that's where you would not have the Syndra to deal with. Okay. And that's pretty much what you want to be focused on early. The first few seconds of a lane are really important, and I wasn't paying enough attention, so I'm coming back to it. Okay. You play this really well, actually. Really well. And you thought you had heal. I do that way too often as well. So that was totally fine. Very well played with the traps. For some reason, they were standing still. That honestly shouldn't have happened. But they tunneled onto the Soraka, and you got a free kill. Okay, you got 2 free kills even. But in that case, you should have complete control and complete advantage of this game from there on out. You're the one who has the money. You have the lead. So how do you capitalize on having a lead? Well, I told you what you wanted to do to win the game. You want to take this turret and go up to this turret. So you also haven't spent your money yet, and you probably have like 1,000 gold after that. You still don't have a whole lot of money. So you're probably going to have to stay for a few more waves, because whenever you first recall, you're going to want that BF. So staying here is fine. Okay, mini lesson on timers. Something that everyone should be aware of in every role, and I talk about in every lecture, is timers. So you can predict where the jungler is going to be based off of what the time is, and then you even get this lovely little cheat hack, basically, where they show when buffs are spawning. So you know where the jungler is going to be at basically up until like 12 minutes. It's really easy to predict where junglers are going to be. So 3 minutes is whenever most junglers clear their first route, and you can tell where they started really easily too. And here's your trick. Here's your trick to figure out where the jungler starts. It's really easy. Really easy. They're not here yet. Because the enemy laners are not here yet, you know that the jungler started bottom. So then whenever 3 minutes comes along, 3 minutes, right, the jungler is up here. And that's a traditional clear. So here's their vision, right? Lee Sin does 2 camps and is looking around 3 minutes for his first gank. Now, the important part of bot lane to know about this is this essentially means that you have control of this lane until you next expect the jungler bottom, right? Because the one thing that can fuck your lead now is getting ganked, right? So predicting where Lee Sin is going to be is pretty important. He also outdoes Rengar early, right? So how do you know where he's going to be? Well, 3 minutes is where you're queuing into where he's top lane, right? He's looking for a gank on middle. He's looking for a gank on top. If you see Lee Sin after this point, right, he's going to show up middle or he's going to show up top. You then start judging how much time you have based off of when you see him. So Lee Sin's still top lane, but he leaves and he starts going bottom. So this is where you're paying attention to the minimap and you know where Lee Sin is. If he's continuing his clear normally, he's going to be bottom lane around 4 minutes. So this ward, for example, I don't know if this was your ward or if it was Soraka's ward, was a pointless ward. Because these wards last 60 seconds, and he's not going to be down here till 4 minutes. So it's not going to see the lead. And if you're thinking about how you're going to lose your lead, this small thing is how you're going to lose your lead. Because you're not going to have your trinket for when Lee comes. And that's how you knew, right? You saw him come middle and then walk straight by. And then following the Lee Sin, what's he going to do? He's going to come bottom, and you know what? Well, I guess it might have seen him because he didn't do Krugs. Did it barely see him? Yeah, it might have barely seen him. Yeah, it did. Okay, well, it shouldn't have seen him. And then you guys do get out of that. You also should be playing safer around now, regardless of having vision, because you knew where Lee Sin was. He was coming bottom. So think about like if a Rammus is ganking you, seeing him here isn't fast enough. Thresh could flash Flay and a lot of other things. Seeing him here isn't fast enough. It's good to know that he's here, and it's a good ward to have here. But that's more for telling you how you can play like super aggressive or like moderately aggressive. Um, you saw Lee Sin on this ward, and I don't think you should have, but good, it worked out. And Lee Sin is probably still down here because he went to Krugs, right? And that's just predicting what the jungler is going to do next. And how do you know he went to do Krugs? Well, look at his health. Whenever you see him, he is full health. A jungler is not going to base at full health. Okay, so the jungler goes and does Krugs, and then you know what? He's going to look for bottom again. This is a really simple thing when you start thinking about it to track the jungler. And it's something that bottom lane typically doesn't do. Because, you're focused on your lane mechanics, and you're focused on getting the CS, and you're focused on, like XP and item recalls and stuff like that. But tracking the jungler is super important for every role. And that tells you when you need to ward. Like, this ward is extra worthless. If this is yours, it should have been over here. Where the Lee Sin's going to be coming from, because if it's here, it's going to be too late. This is what you would ward if you are blue team. You ward over here if you're blue team. Or if you're expecting a roam from mid lane. You're not expecting a roam from mid lane because look at this. She's not going to roam to you. She's not roaming to you. She's got low health and low mana. Lee Sin's coming from over here. Not a useful ward. And an easy way to check and see if it's your ward or not is by checking this, I guess. So you still have one trinket, and I would be trying to think about when you're going to next ward those bushes. Because your ward dies, and you want to shove out this wave and go ward. Yeah, so it was Soraka's. And the only way you're going to press your advantage, as I said, is by taking this tower and rotating up to taking this tower. And if you're not attacking the turret, you're never going to take this tower. You're just stalling the game out right now. So for having the lead that you have, stalling a game out is not what you want to be doing. Especially on someone like Caitlyn, who is known for having a strong early game, right? Caitlyn kind of gets weaker mid-game and then spikes again near the end. Varus just like constantly scales. And there you go, with that obvious return gank that I was telling you about. And now, you probably have a good amount of money to recall on. It's not worth staying here. That wave is going to take them probably 10 seconds to push in. There's a good chance Lee Sin's still around. You don't have your summoners now. At least I don't think. Actually, yeah, you still have this one. But this is what happens when you guys stay. You guys should have died here if they played it right. Lee Sin waited too long to go. And I guess you end up picking up the wave, which makes it somewhat okay. But it was a risky thing to be extending up that far. If you want to stay in lane like this, you wait till this pushes into your tower, because they're going to think that you're recalling. Because the recalling is the smart thing to do, right? So if you want to wait on tower like back here, they'll push it into you really fast. You'll get that same amount of CS. You'll be safe, and you'll be under turret. The problem is if they have a jungler that can dive you or a mid lane that can roam to you. And their mid laner is missing, so their mid laner could be roaming down, and this ward will not see them if they come to dive you. And this is a very common dive maneuver, where they know you might not have summoners, but it seems like you still do, and you have everything up, actually. But that's a really common dive, where whenever they set up a play like this, the laners are low and under turret, which you get yourselves low by extending up like this, and you would have missed out on 30 gold. That's it. To save, Soraka and you probably like 400 health. 30 gold is 400 health. That's not a really good idea because, 100 health is a potion, which is 50 gold. That just doesn't make sense. That's not a worthwhile trade. Let the minion die, let it come into your tower, you'll still get the CS. And it's a bit unfortunate Soraka's not helping you with CSing. Something else that I'd like to mention, though, is with you having that early gold lead, the only time you're able to use that gold lead is after you've shopped, and you need to be paying attention to trying to get that early buy. Because if you wait long enough, like let's say you recall whenever you have 2,600 gold, right? That probably means the Varus has his 1,300, which means he's going to have BF as well, and you're going to have BF and shoes, right? And that's not going to win you the fight. What you want to do is go as soon as you can with that money and buy yourself your item so you can press your lead. Because essentially right now, look at this. Look at this and then look at your gold that you should have. You are even in this lane. If not, Varus should be slightly ahead because he's got a potion, right? Okay, you've already used yours. I was looking to see if he had any extra items, but I forgot he died at level 1. And that's not good whenever you're not recalling for this long. This is like whenever you normally should be recalling. You should have been looking to get a recall much earlier than this to use that lead that you got earlier. And I don't know how much money you had here, but it probably was around 2,000. There's no reason you should have been in lane this long. And the Lee Sin is top now. You catch that on a ward in Rengar. But now you're in no position to fight anyways. You burn your heal. She burns her flash. And this is just you guys staying too long. You're not able to use that lead that you had earlier. And now you're playing up without Soraka. And you're really easy dive here if they had set it up right. Okay. Yeah. You are overstaying again. Soraka's coming with full health to, I guess, heal you if that's what you're thinking. But think of this from the losing AD carry's perspective, right? Varus should be losing here. The longer he keeps you in lane, the longer you do not have a lead on him. So he's going to want to be shoving this into you the entire time and forcing these trades this entire time just to make it so you can't use that extra gold. The longer he does that, the easier this lane is for him. Okay, now time to talk about the second timer that's important, right? And the second timer that's important is coming up. See, this is what I was talking about with those map hacks. Whenever this goes yellow, you know that the jungler is going to start wanting to be bottom. Doesn't mean they're bottom right away, but see Rengar's coming bottom, and Lee Sin is top, and he's probably going to look for something and then go bottom. Is he going to go bottom right away, actually? Yeah, I guess he's clearing down, and after this he's going to go for red, right? No? I have no idea what he's doing. That's not a good clear. But anyway, that second timer, right? If he baits you to stay in lane that entire time, and then you get another gank off, right? Lee Sin ganks you. In this situation, you have equivalent, equal gold, and Lee Sin's probably going to be 6 on that after that clear, because this camp usually gives junglers 6. And it's going to be a kill on at least Soraka because she has no heal and no flash. So what does this mean? This means that they could probably get Dragon, or they could probably force your turret, or at least they're going to take away that lead you developed for yourself and prevent you from doing what you need to be doing to win the game. Okay, so this is the next important timer. Around 6 minutes is whenever this buff spawns, and 6 minutes to like 8 minutes is whenever junglers are going between this side of the map to this side of the map. The closer to 8 minutes it is, the more likely they're top side in a traditional clear. The closer to 6 minutes it is, the more likely they're bottom side. And this is in a traditional clear. So it's swapped if the jungler started topside, or if they have like an Evelyn or a Irving or something like that. You can't use the same logic. This is just a traditional clear. So right here is a great time for you to recall because you see the Rengar's here. He's low. He's not going to be able to gank for you after he gets blue. You're low mana, low health. Soraka's got no summoners, right? Great time to recall because Lee Sin should be bottom. Good. Okay. It was nice of you to buy pink. I noticed you had a lot of support games. Is that why you decided to get a pink? Yeah, yeah. It's something every role needs to do. This is one of the simplest ways you can start winning a lane without literally doing anything, other than putting this 75 gold down. It's super duper easy. And if people are asking or thinking like they don't have the money for this, this pays dividends every second this ward is alive, and every second you are alive, it just pays dividends. So, good idea buying a pink ward. If you have the extra gold and the extra space, 100% of the time do it. Um, so I would not have expected Lee Sin to be down here. I knew he was going to be down here because he was walking towards his blue buff, but in a normal game, I would not have expected this. I cheated by turning on vision, you know. Um, so that was, uh, man, you are getting really lucky this game, aren't you? Two free kills and then they gank you and you get two free kills. What the hell? Sign me up. Um, let's see. Can you have predicted this though? Nah, I don't think I would have predicted it from just killing it with a pink ward. You do play your fights a little bit weird. Like this one, the way you set up your traps is strange, and you stay really close. So like here, you're really close to the thresh. He could have flayed you with this range. Um, this is really bad positioning. Um, he doesn't focus on this for some reason, but he could have started this fight off by flaying you and then lanterned over, right? And instead, he ends up walking away, and now Lee Sin is here, and then he's looking to fight you. So this fight starts off in a really beneficial to you way, and there's the jungler level 6 that I was talking about. It's just that they didn't get any damage off first whenever they brought Lee in, and this was a huge wave. It was a really risky time for them to be ganking you because of the minion advantage. However, that doesn't detract from that was a problem positioning wise. Uh, they could have played that fight better, and I'm not going to say that's going to result in them getting a kill on you there because you still did have minion advantage, but it was something you could have improved on. And if it's something that happens this game, it means it probably happens in more than just this game. You're going to want to push this really hard into the turret and then attack the turret. This is your chance to kill the turret. Not kill, but like get a lot of damage on it. Yep. I actually am surprised that you're able to kill it here. I guess that's because you got Thresh to back too. Wow. Okay, another freebie. He shouldn't have been up there. This just gives you the perfect example of, though, you are given all of these free kills, so what do you do with them? So there's two things an AD carry can do with their lead. And it depends a lot with what you are playing, what your support is playing, and what the enemy team is playing. Win conditions, right? This game, I would be looking to go top lane and take this turret. But the alternative is to continue pressing your advantage in this lane, right? This is what Twitch, Vayne, Tristana, and yeah, just think of those three would want to do. Because Vayne can look for these skirmishes still. She's not as good at sieging, she's really good at skirmishes. Tristana, on the contrary, is excellent at sieging, but she has a lot of self-peel. So if in the ideal situation you pull their jungler down to deal with you, she can still get out. Twitch can still get out too, with, stealth. With having a Soraka support, I don't know if I would be trying this even with those champions. I would be looking to rotate top. You guys do recall here, and you go bottom again. So this is something that you really want to break this habit. Okay, mini lesson time. The main reason that you have two people bottom, right? The main reason that the meta sends two people bottom is so you have early dragon control. That is entirely the reason. If you get top turret gold, they would push bottom. They wouldn't be able to push bottom if you rotated the lane. You aren't leaving bottom lane, you are rotating it. So Swain still goes bottom. By the time it gets to this turret, they're going to start, Swain's last hitting and stuff. And then your jungler in this situation picks whether or not he's going to gank them bottom lane, where Swain has a level advantage and Rengar has a level advantage, or he's going to rotate top lane and take these turrets faster. Turrets, plural. If you're going to be doing that kind of a rotation, you want to be pushing it really hard and punishing them not rotating to you. But okay, I'm gonna finish my chat on this. The reason you have two people bottom is to control Drake. The professional play had a lot of first turret rotations. It went like 2 years ago or something like that. You just type to them in chat. It's not that hard. Trust me. I've played at various LOs. Um, I can show you one of my accounts or two of them. I have an 80% win rate in gold as AD carry, and in platinum I have like a 75% win rate. And you just type to your team, and they'll listen to you. Especially if you're Caitlyn with 5 kills, they'll listen to you. But I still do want to finish my talk on dragons and the meta. So the reason lane rotation stopped to get out of a more challenging matchup was they buffed top turret early game. So that way, if you were to put your strong sieging lane top lane, it would not get this tower as quickly as bottom lane was able to get the tower. However, that buff dies off, and it dies off by like 10 minutes. So typically, by the time you take your first turret and you rotate to the next turret, it gets easy to take. You could also, in theory, be doing middle this game, but it's a lot more risky, as I said, to be doing that 3 and 3. I wouldn't want to be doing that. Middle lane generally has a lot more wave clear. Syndra just more pick. So I wouldn't be really going into this lane just yet. But yeah, so the reason that you had two people bottom was for dragon control, and then they made sure that they sent all the bottom laners here for tower control as well. Well, you already have gotten the tower control, and dragon was changed. Dragon is no longer the priority that it used to be, and I love ranting on dragon. I think dragon is pretty much worthless. So dragon gives you the potential to get an objective later. Think about all of the stats Dragon does. It gives you movement speed, it gives you health and mana regen, it gives you a little bit of extra damage, and it gives you like damage to objectives, right? Those are what the dragons do. So if you want to be thinking about what these things do, though, none of these win you games. They give you the potential to get something later. So with that extra AD, maybe you win a fight, and then you can take these turrets, right, because you won the fight and no one's here. Alright, it gives you the health regen so you can out-sustain the enemy, so they have to just recall and you take the turret. Gives you extra damage to turrets and Baron, so that way you can take turrets. It gives you extra movement speed so you can rotate and take the next turret. That's what dragons do. They give you the potential to take an objective later. So now whenever you're thinking about it, you are wasting time down here to give yourself the potential to take an objective later. While, in my logic, you could already be taking this objective. Right? So this is the difference between gaining an objective and getting the potential to get an objective later. Dragons are something that you should do when you have nothing better to do and you have free time and there is no way of contesting it. If you want to be thinking about, okay, well, yeah, Fire Drake, it wins you fights, right? It gives you damage, and damage wins fights. Well, you know what else wins fights? Numbers advantages. And you know how you get numbers advantages? If you rotate top lane here, there are 3 of you, and there is 1 Morgana. That wins you a fight too. And you know what wins you a fight? Okay, Dragon, like Red Drake, has a gold equivalence. This wins a fight as well. Right? You have gold value up here, which you put into items, which gives you more stats than Infernal Drake does. And you can always outscale dragons, because the way you outscale dragons is by doing rotations. And I do not think that I'm going to be able to talk too much about rotations other than this super obvious one this game. Just because of your what's happening this game, you're getting fed for no reason. But rotations set up smart fights with vision and stuff like that, so you pick the ones you know you can win. You get a wave pushing in another lane, So that way the Thresh and the Varus are down here catching this wave. And you go somewhere else where you have the numbers advantage. Because you know what outscales the 8% gold that Dragon has? The 40% gold of 2 team members not being there. Because everywhere, I guess it is 40%. I did my math right. Great. Because they have an equivalent share of this money. And whenever they're not in the fight, they can't contribute to it. Okay. So you're down here and you're getting Drake, and that's your idea of controlling this, and then maybe you're going to go bottom again. Well, with your setup, right, and the amount of crowd control they have, and the Syndra's roam potential, and Lee Sin's, even though he had a shit gank earlier, they still could kill you, and that would throw your lead. You don't want to be giving up your lead yet. You want to be extending it, especially when you're super fed as an AD carry. And if you think about getting the Dragons going to extend that, it's really not. It gives you the chance of getting something later, and different Drakes can be good for different team comps. Like Ocean Drake's great if you have mana problems on a champion. So yeah, I'll give you that. But it's not really worth wasting your time over. You're on the wrong half of the map because you're trying to control an objective that, in my biased mind, does not matter. Professional play is a bit different because these stats can mean the difference between fights, but we're not professionals and people make mistakes. So it's a lot easier to be playing to the mistakes that people make at your rating than the 3% move speed that this is going to give you. Okay. Herald, just to talk about that a little bit here as well. Herald is a much more guaranteed objective. If your team is winning and you take Herald, it is a guaranteed turret. Trust me, it's a guaranteed turret. If your team is even or behind, it's not a guaranteed turret, but it's good to deny it from the enemy because it forces them an extra turret. It's tricky. But I would say Herald is something that if you have the opportunity to take this tower, just take this tower instead. Towers are always more valuable than Herald or Dragon. Herald is something where you take this turret, you disappear into Fog of War, and then you take this, and then you rotate down to take the next turret. They think you recalled, so that way you get a free objective over here, and you get a free objective over here. That's what Herald should be used like. So okay, you get Drake, and you rotate mid. I said this was okay but risky. You start looking in their jungle. It's good to get some vision here, but this is that pick potential I was talking about. And that's why you didn't really want to be on this side of the map. Because now, you know what? You had the largest share of your team's gold from 5 kills, and you're dead. So now the enemy team has the advantage. Now, of course, they're not going to be able to get Dragon, but they could potentially get mid-turret. I don't really know what Rengar's doing right now. He's hunting for kills or something, I guess. And you're going bot to catch this wave. I would have asked for Swain to lane swap by this point, but since, you want someone to get money. Okay, look at that. Swain just teleported top lane. Why couldn't he have just TP'd down here and you walk top lane, right? Pretty easy. But if you don't communicate it, no one's going to do it. And my logic with typing and pinging and stuff like that is if you think you are better than the people you are playing with, which means you want to climb, right? Because you are better than the people you are playing with, you should be the one making decisions. Because if you notice something, that does not mean the people you are playing with notice something. Because they're not as good as you, because you are better than them. And if you are better than them, shouldn't you be the one making decisions because you know how to win a game more, right? If you know how to win a game by going top lane, right? And you tell your team that, then if they respect the decision, they go bottom. If they don't, then they have their own belief in how they're going to win the game. But most of the time, trust me, most of the time, they will listen to you, especially if you're winning like this. Now, if you say your win condition is you need red buff, that's a bit different. I don't think that you'll be able to convince a jungler that you get red buff just by saying it. But it's really easy to justify making shot calling decisions like rotating lanes if you think you deserve to climb. Because then, it's not only a skill game of, but it's also a strategy game. Skill game is how you get yourself ahead. Strategy is how you close out games. So you have good skills, but you haven't demonstrated that you have good strategies. And I'm going to say your skills this game were a bit lucky. Let's admit that much, right? They kind of just fed you 4 kills. Uh, yeah. So you have good vision control over here. It's not super scary to be pushing right now. Syndra was also in vision, so it's fine. But you are alone. And another minor mechanical thing, if you're just going to be standing still, make sure you're in the bushes as Caitlyn so you can get her headshot passives off. Otherwise, you want to be kiting that out. And you're just sitting bottom lane again. This really demonstrates that you don't know how to close out games. And Ringer is doing a pretty good job of hanging out with you since you're doing that. Soraka's not going to be able to set up that fight for you. And now you have no vision over here, so you can't stay. Because you don't know where the Syndra is. This is really bad positioning. You don't know where the Syndra is. You don't know where the Lee is. Soraka, that was a really dangerous ward. She should not have gone over there alone because you didn't know where the enemy team was. This is a really dangerous time to ward. This is a really bad push. Lee Sin shows up. You get another freebie. Another 2 freebies. You shouldn't have gotten these kills. Syndra shows up. Okay, well, if you're not thinking about strategy whenever you're playing, then you're not trying to win. And if, you know, but you think you are trying to win, right? Because you're doing a mentoring session, right? So you're trying to win. But if you're trying to win, you need to be thinking about strategy the entire game, every game. Otherwise, you are showing you don't care about winning. Because just having good mechanics and stuff like that is not how you win games. It's really not. It's how you get ahead, but it's not how you win games. I could show you people who get super duper fed in bronze but don't win that game. It's super duper fed even in diamond, but don't win the game. At this point, actually, you're pretty good to be pushing bottom. That's just because where the people are here in Herald, it's going to draw probably an extra 1 person, and you have your vision. Now you would leave. That was a smart time to leave. You go and try and get another dragon. Really not an important objective to control. Your team did get Herald, but you see, because you were bottom lane, right? The Herald didn't even manage to take this turret. You still haven't taken this turret, and you haven't taken this turret. Your gold, it's gone up by probably, like, I guess 1,000 since earlier, but that was from those 2 free kills, which you shouldn't have gotten. Like, that was really a misplay by them. I'll go back and I'll watch that. I'll try and point it out. Well, I guess that would be the start of it now, wouldn't it? Missing the hook and then Varus sitting on you. Alright. So, I guess since you poked them down earlier, that was the reason that you were able to get these kills, right? Okay, I'll give you that. They shouldn't have been that poked, but that means you were doing a good job playing Caitlyn. So, okay, I'll give you some redemption there. Maybe I just like bitching too much. But they shouldn't have let that happen. And you still haven't rotated top lane. You're trying to rotate middle now. And if your logic was they weren't going to lane swap early, right? The Swain wasn't going to lane swap. Well, then why are you even showing up mid at all this game, right? Because you're A-ramming. Because you don't know where to be on the map. That's why you're mid. And that's not a good habit, because if you're already at the point where um, if you're at the point where you're thinking like we can group, there's no reason you can't be doing that up here. Because your team, even though you're really strong, I don't know if you really want to be looking for group fights. Because they have just so much more pick, like that. Man, you scaring them off with those headshots, though. This is a pretty good time to be sieging. Since they overstayed long enough to let you get them all low, I would be doing this too. It's a good idea. And then I'd go bottom, because that wave is huge. I wouldn't stay for this. And Victor and, yeah, so I would be, yeah, this is what I'd be doing too. So in a normal game, at this point, let's say you're not super fed, let's say the game is even, just to give you a wider taste for the game in one replay review. The way an AD carry starts playing in mid to late game, like 15 minutes, like no, more like 19 minutes onward. 19 minutes onward. You want to get bottom lane slow pushing so you can be with your team mid lane and top lane. And why? It's because Baron. You need to make sure you're always able to show up to Baron fights, because the number one way people throw games is by starting a fight whenever they have a numbers disadvantage or, get caught out, right? The way you get caught out is by typically doing something with Baron. And this is a game winning and game losing point in the map. The best thing you can do at this point is get another pink ward, drop your pink ward somewhere around here, get this bottom lane slow pushing, and if you don't know how to slow push, it's a lot easier than what it sounds like. You basically just take a wave bottom and then leave it. That's a really, really, really cut and dry explanation of it, and that's not always right, but that's right enough of the time. And you go and you start controlling this part of the map. Because then, if nothing else, it lets your team have the possibility of doing Baron, right? And if you were taking Dragons earlier because you think that it's worthwhile, right? It gives you the potential to take an objective later. Well, being on this side of the map gives you the potential to take an objective later. So every second you are somewhere mid or top, you are taking Dragon. That's the equivalent of being up here. And getting this wave slow pushing is to draw people bottom that aren't you. Like, Thresh and Varus are going to come bottom to clear this, and then you have a free Baron. That's how you guys set up for free Barons. As an AD carry, the only thing you really need to be worried about to set up for Barons is get a wave slow pushing, buy a pink ward for somewhere over here, and be somewhere mid or top. 19 minutes onwards. That's your strategy. Now, in a game that you're this ahead, it's still pretty true that that's what you want to be doing, but your team also can be doing other things because they're just ahead. This is risky. You're so disrespectful at this point. It's kind of funny because, you are really far ahead, and it's not bad, but like you're letting them hit you with things, it looks like. Yeah. Jesus. I don't know how much of this is you baiting or if you're really getting lucky that you have a Soraka, because you get hit by so much, and you rotate bottom for the wave. Yeah, I would do that. But after this, you want to get gone. Yep, get gone. Threshes, since you fast push this, just to give an example, this was going to crash a lot faster. They're having someone able to fix this to slow push into you immediately. Like, this is going to slow push into you guys, and never mind, they sent Lee too, so now they're going to fast push this in. You like your dragons. I don't know why they're going bottom. That's kind of silly. Alright. So the game's pretty much over here. To highlight a couple of the things that I saw, your positioning is troubling with someone playing. You're playing Caitlyn, who has a ridiculous amount of range, and that one time I showed you that you were within Thresh's Flay range should never happen. If you're letting that happen, that's not specific to just playing against Thresh, but there is like a really annoying Caitlyn mechanic that once you get really good at Caitlyn, you'll start to be able to do, where someone walks at you like a Vayne, you take one step back, and the Vayne can't get to you. The Vayne turns around because they realize they're not going to get to you, and you auto them because they're still in your auto range, but they can't auto you. They never get close enough. So then they turn back to you to try and chase you down to get that auto, and you take a step away. So then they take a step away because they can't get to you, and you auto them again. That's an example of good positioning. Never once in this game did you even attempt to do something like that. You always were just either standing still while they were chasing down your Soraka, or standing within their auto attack range while getting healed incredible amounts, and standing within their Syndra ult range, and you were standing way too close at almost every stage of this game, even for being ahead, because you were putting yourself in a position where you can get ganked, where you can get picked, where they can engage on you. Not good positioning. If you want to work on that, then you need to be trying to do that trading that I was talking about earlier. Make sure that the enemy AD carry can never auto attack you if you know they have less range, which Caitlyn should beat out pretty much everyone. So you should be able to do that for everyone. And that's how you would know micro positioning. Macro positioning, overextending like this, is just as you had admitted, you weren't thinking about strategy. This is an example of macro positioning mistakes just being down here. And you look at how much that did. Do you see this tower is still standing at this point in the game, even though you have spent the entire game pretty much down here? Up until about 20 minutes, you were down here the entire game. And do you know how many minutes it took you to win the game whenever you stopped standing down here? About 4 minutes. That's you never got this turret. You went somewhere else and did something else. You're winning the game right now. That's an example of why rotations are important. Because you went middle and you were able to get these turrets, even though you were positioned really, really rudely, saying, come and fight me, and then you would kill them. But you can't do that every game. And if you're doing that every game, then that's a mistake. Because you aren't going to get lucky like that every game. You also need to work on your recall timers. You didn't press your advantage in this lane pretty much at all. The 2 times you got ganked, you got lucky the first time. The second time, I think that you played it okay, and they also misplayed it by jumping into your minion wave and stuff. But you shouldn't have gotten those kills, and then you didn't do anything with that lead that you were gifted. Your wave management is okay. You don't push too hard in, and you're not tracking the jungler. Even though the one time that I thought that he shouldn't have been seen on this ward, you saw him. So, I guess partial credit there. Maybe you're more aware of your Elo's meta than I am. But you shouldn't have seen him here. And the amount of times you guys got ganked, the second time you got ganked was weird. Your macro positioning, you never care about Baron. You do go mid lane a few times, but you start still focusing on this side of the map. You didn't buy a pink ward and put it in a useful spot. I don't know if any of these are yours, but if they are, none of those are really setting up for what you need to, because this is the most important thing on the map at this point of the game. You do manage to take turrets and stuff outside of that, but realistically, these wards shouldn't be needed. These pinks in these aggressive places. Yeah. Your blue trinket maybe could be one of these places, but you really don't need a pink in these places. That's for setting up picks when they're rotating between bottom and mid, and you don't need to be doing that because if you're setting up picks down here, they could just go and do Baron, and then they've come back in the game. If you set up pinks on this side of the map to do that same thing, that would be much more appreciated. Um, these pinks aren't good. Uh, your let's see, your CS was okay. It's nothing really to like brag or complain about. It was okay. Um, your dragon control, I think you over prioritize it, but I'm also biased here. If you agree with my reasoning, then you should also agree that you overvalue it. But if you disagree with it, that's fine. I know a lot of people who really like dragons, and you can like dragons too. I just think that they're overvalued. So the amount of times you hovered this side of the map after you had taken the tower to take dragons, unnecessary in my mind. Whenever you could have been potentially taking turrets or even Herald, you could have taken Herald earlier. Your team ended up getting it, but they didn't get the turret. Um, so micro positioning, macro positioning, rotations, objective control, and vision. 5 things said in very punchy way that doesn't explain anything. That's why this whole thing, this review of specifically your gameplay, the entire thing is important. But if you're looking for that 5 things, that's what it is. Yeah, it really is. All right. Well, that's it for this game. I see you just get the towers, and it should be really easy to just close out from here. And you never go for Baron because I don't see it on this. All right. Gonna stop here.